You're listening to the Conference Board of Canada's Mental Health and COVID-19 series with Dr. Bill Howatt, Chief of Research, Workplace Productivity.
Hi, Bill Howatt, Mental Health, COVID-19. Welcome. Today I'm going to have a conversation with you on parenting and give you some ideas that I have been thinking about that may be of help as I have been in several conversations and asked around parenting. And yeah, I had three children, and three children are a challenge in any time in life, and then put a pandemic on top of that. You are now responsible for the entertaining and the education and all the challenges that come with it. So it's super, super hard. So to prepare for this, I took a look at some old thinking that I had in a book I wrote called The Parent's Survival Guide for the 21st Century. Just get myself some ideas to reframe myself to help be able to provide a little bit of value today. And one of the things that came out of my review is there's really five things that I think that are really helpful for people to kind of help find your way through this challenging time. And some of them are sage advice, whether you're in a pandemic or not. They're good basic parenting fundamentals. And one of the things I can tell you is when you're doing this is I give you my five little tips is to be aware that there are no set of instructions for a pandemic and everyone that's doing the best they can. And the big parameters is ensuring your children are psychologically safe and you're psychologically safe and that, folks have, the ability to be able to know and give themselves a bit of a break because we sometimes are really, really hard on ourselves. And as long as the basics are in place, because we're really working really, really hard. So there's this ideal state and there's somewhere in between, and most of us are going to be somewhere in between. So the mnemonic that I'm going to use today is around finds. It's called finds, FINDS, because I believe we have to all try to find our way through this process, and it's not going to be always easy, and it's not always going to be hard. It's going to be somewhere in between, and that's pretty much after having three kids myself in a non-pandemic time. There's good days and there's challenging days. So we'll start with the F. One of the things, family meetings are really, really effective if you've not actually structured them. A family meeting is where you have an opportunity to sit down, and it's not a meeting where the parents are talking at the children. It's an opportunity where everybody in the meeting, regardless of how old they are, they can articulate, and you put it into their age appropriate so that they can, if their communication skills, so they can have some ideas and make it somewhat fun. And we used to do these meetings where we had a little talking stick and we went around. And with three simple questions we would do is, what's working really well this week? What do we need to keep? What didn't work so well this week? If there was some conflict or some disagreements that we need to resolve, because that happens with siblings and in partnerships in life. It cannot always is perfect, but it's important to try to resolve things that may still not be resolved. And what are some ideas we might want to start? So, the purpose of the meeting was to celebrate what was working, resolve or stop things that may not be working for everybody, and is there anything we needed to start? So the family meeting was a kind of a form, was not supposed to be really super formal, informal, and the big thing is to try to get everybody to have a voice and to communicate and to talk and express. And it takes some time because if the parents are dominant and so, or there's a dominant sibling or someone's off, it can take some time to get enough trust for that family circle to be able to have a nice, honest conversation with each other. The I, involvement. One of the things I found in my book when I'm thinking about preparing for today was there's three things parents can do: for, with, and at. There are things we do for our children. There are things we can do with our children, and we do things at. And at is, the correcting, directing. For is buying, doing. And with is actually time with. Involvement is really important. We're all getting pulled in a million different ways. That time where we can slow down and sit and spend time with our children is invaluable, is because at the end of the day, trust me, after having three children going through it and not always being perfect, this parenting thing at all. However, hindsight's always 2020. There's some times in my mind where I say, if I would have done more with time here, that could have been helpful. So it's a thing that I just know from experience and watching people. The more we can do with it, the better. The N, no perfection. I'll say that again. No perfection. It's really important to, in your mind, accept there is no perfection and to countermeasure that in your mind, make a plan for how do you deal with a young person or a child that's having a meltdown or having a tantrum or someone's rude to each other. Because if we don't have a plan or approach, we have a tendency to react. So we'll actually seem like we're surprised that it happened. We're surprised a 4-year-old lost their temper. We're surprised a 12-year-old, was disrespectful. There is no perfection, and what happens is that psychological reactivity is that when young folks start to get some autonomy or go older, when they start to want to try to hold on to more autonomy, they can push back against authority or figures to try to get more control. It's a part of the natural development process, and that's one of the things. Again, when I think go through my, if I ever went through it again, I'm probably too old to do it again. However, my mind is, I probably would have been better off if I had more contingency plans, and that's one of the things is planning for no perfection because there is none. And then that way, the expectation gap, we can lower it and we don't have to be so blowing up or throwing off when these kind of things happen. That's really, really important. The D, do allow time for problem solving. When a young person or a child or a teenager are making a mistake or having an issue or having a challenge or struggling, allow them the opportunity to problem solve. Through our experiences is how we develop resiliency. Too often we're parents, we're in a rush to rescue and we're rushed to fix things, and we don't feel comfortable when our little ones or children are having a difficult moment. It's okay to allow them to struggle some. And that's one of the things how we grow and develop with resiliency. Now, parents that are helicopter parents and that are over their children or lawnmower parents who run over everybody to protect their children, that may feel like you're doing the right thing from a protective point. However, if we don't allow problem solving and allow people to struggle some, and when I'm saying people, children, what happens is they can become dependent on their environment and they can learn by losing their temper and getting really upset the problem will be solved for them. So I do encourage you to allow children and teens to have some time to struggle. Allow them, as long as they're safe, allow them some uncomfort. It's okay not to get your way all the time and not to be everything is always perfect. And it's okay to be upset for a few hours and be frustrated because that's how they can learn from their experiences. And they also can develop and understand the world does not always get along with everything that they want. Meaning, it doesn't do exactly what they expect. It's not going to be perfect for them, and that I think is an important lesson to start to bring through. And again, as long as they're safe, and as long as they have food and shelter and water and all these basic needs, and they know they have love, and that's really important. They have love. However, I remember my father being a hard, tender son. He used to say to me, it's okay that you're having a bad day, and that doesn't mean I don't uh, need to do anything for you today, but it's me. I guess what I'm trying to get at it was my dad's way of saying, it's you can have a bad day, but it doesn't mean I'm having a bad day. I guess that's the essence of the message. It just got uh, the triggers in my head when I think about my dad is how he used to allow us to struggle in a very respectful way. It was like he was kind of there, but he didn't fix it, if you will. The last is the S, the schedule. Scheduling is really important. Structure, counting on it. I know that's probably one of the best things my mom did was to be able to make sure we knew where our routine was. We knew there was dinner was at a certain time. We knew lunch was a certain time. We knew our curfew was a certain time to be home. We knew when our chores had to be done. Having structure is really important. We knew what time we had to be up every morning, what time our beds needed to be made, when breakfast was, and I know myself being ADHD, having structure has really, really been really successful for me. And my challenge is when people don't follow through and do exactly what they say, even at my age, it's really, really challenging. So because it becomes unpredictable, and I find it hard. So young people are very much the same. They like structure. They like counting on things. And the more structure we can provide them in increments like the morning, the afternoon, the evening, and with blocks and milestones, they often are much more successful. So those are five little tips for you, regardless if you're in a pandemic or not in a pandemic. I find they're probably helpful in all points in time. Hopefully, you got a couple ideas to think about. I find a lot of parenting is about reflecting, slowing down, thinking about it. And again, it's really important. We're all trying to find our way as the parents. It doesn't end, by the way. I mean, my children are in their 20s and it's still parenting, so it doesn't go anywhere. So I realized that these tips and tricks, the more you can try to use them, it can be helpful for you and it can be helpful for them. So with that, I'm going to wish you a good day and take care as we move into another week. We're getting there one day at a time. However, COVID-19 is not going anywhere. We need to all stick with vigilance. Hi, Bill Howatt here. Hopefully you're finding these videos of some value. If you'd like to share these, on the lower right of your video, there's a icon you can click. You can send it through your social media feeds, join the Conference Board of Canada social media feed so we can keep you up to date. And if you have ideas, suggestions, please leave your comments so we can consider them. And if you have things that you'd like us to speak to, I certainly will try to do all I can to help out. With that, have a wonderful day.